Hello, I'm Joshua Jorogen Garuya, and I usually say I'm a retired church minister. That's the language I use in my retirement. I am delighted to have this opportunity to talk with you. Thank you for clicking on my channel. Now, for more than 6 years in my retirement, I have read daily, researching and focusing on the study of human potential development and spiritual transformation. This is the work I'm now presenting to you. Enjoy. Now, welcome to the presentation of my second video talk on the 4 biblical principles for prosperity, well-being, and success. If this is your first video, you may want to browse the preceding 2 video talks. Now have you come across the 80-20 rule, which is called the Pareto principle, named after the Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto? It states that for many events, roughly 80% of the effects come from 20% of the success, the causes, 20% of the causes, while 80% produce only 20%. This is interesting because we read it in the Bible. For example, you know the story of the 12 young men in the book of Numbers chapter 13 who were sent by Moses to spy Canaan. It is informative that these young men surveyed the land of Canaan efficiently and gave a unanimous observation about the land. The problem came when they gave their understanding and interpretation of the way forward. The 83%, that's close to 80, that is, the 10 of them reported discouraging information, and the whole congregation of Israel listened to them, while about 17%, that is, 2 of them, encouraged the people. Though initially these 2 were not listened to, it is the 2 who made Israel enter the promised land. Now, coming back to the 80-20 rule, if you happen to be in the 80% category or perhaps on the borderline, you must have wanted to do something and you experience some negative feeling inside, something of discouraging nature. Or you have heard people say something like, "It is difficult. I don't have the strength. I'm not educated. I don't have the tools. I'm too old. It cannot be done. It is impossible. Others have tried and failed. My people are cursed. My mother cursed me. The devil is hindering me. Perhaps God does not want me to have it this way. What if I fail?" On and on and on the thinking goes. I would like to encourage you that deep inside yourself, you have the other side of the potential that says, "I can do all things through him who gives me strength." You have the 20% untapped potential in you that you need to bring about the 80% of your dream. This is the force of the second biblical principle I'm presenting. I've given it a motto or a title: Develop a positive mind disposition, which is your composition of your God-given natural inherent qualities of your mind. I'm basing this on the book of Joshua chapter 1 verse 6, which reads, "Be strong and of good courage." Only be strong and very courageous. The greatest challenge to human progress is the habit of looking or thinking about issues in life from the negative side of every circumstance, thinking and talking of possible failure instead of concentrating upon the means of succeeding. There's a blocking mentality that is built in the mind or subconscious for that matter, over the years, brought about the environment and the unfavorable circumstances that one picks and develops over those years, especially when young. This becomes what I call the undercurrent that will dictate our external actions and reactions all the time. In the human mind or heart are two opposing forces that are antagonistic to each other. In his book, The Principle-Centered Leadership, Stephen R. Covey calls them driving forces versus resistant forces. In ordinary minds, the resistant forces, which are negative thought processes, dominate the outcome of most of the activity in life, while the driving forces are dominant but dormant in many cases. This is why the 80% produce 20% of the outcome. Our concern on this platform is to awaken the dormant driving forces to push back resistant forces or keep them off from their dominating in our minds. By so doing, we are able to get the results we want freely. On this count, I'd like to discuss the force of imagination. Whatever inclination you develop your imagination to follow dictates your results. If it is the resistant forces that are dominating your imaginations, they will lead you to negative results. If, on the other hand, it is the driving forces that are dominant, your imaginations will lead you to achieve positive results through and through. You will note that the resistant forces do not have a potential capacity. They are neutral and get power from the positive dominant forces. They can only produce negative impact. But the driving forces are potential and have positive power. This is why I'm calling them dominant. To illustrate this, let me take you back to the 10 young men who used their negative imagination. Hear what they said in Numbers chapter 13, verse 33. There we saw the giants, and we were like grasshoppers in our own sight, and so we were in their sight. Think of this. We were like grasshoppers in our own sight, and so we were in their sight. This is the force of the imagination in their minds, which produced negative reaction to the recipients of their interpretation. Listen to this from the previous verse and hear what was the reaction in verse 32. And they gave the children of Israel a bad report of the land which they had spied out. And the response, which is the product of resistance force from the congregation, as reported in chapter 14, verse 1, was this. So all the congregation lifted their voices and cried, and the people wept that night, and they complained. Is this not a common phenomenon all over? Imagination. The threshold of negative imagination produces undesirable traits, the major one being fear of all kind. In his book, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill analyzes 6 basic fears, which he says every human suffers at one tune or another. He names them in the order of their most common appearance. They are the fear of poverty, the fear of criticism, the fear of ill health, the fear of loss of love of someone, the fear of old age, and the fear of death. All these are launched in the heart or mind, or the subconscious for that matter, of a person, and work against any intended positive progress. Imagination of these fears manifests them as a real state of affairs. Is why Napoleon calls them only ghosts. And they are, I believe. Another writer wrote, "Fear is the mother of all the negative emotions, and her brood is found clustering very closely around her. And these are worry, lack of confidence, irresolution, timidity, depression, and all the rest of the negative brood of feelings and emotions are the progeny of fear. They all work together." Other resistant forces are indecision, doubt, and intimidation. I have particular interest in intimidation, which is related to timidity. In his second epistle to Timothy, chapter 1, verse 7, St. Paul says this, "For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and love and a sound mind." Now, using both New International Version and the Revised Standard Version, the reading is, "For God did not give us a spirit of timidity." That's where the word is. Now, intimidation means to strike fear into or make timid. It is an act of force intended to create a situation where intended positive action is made weak and not accomplished. People become intimidated by others or even themselves. They can also be intimidated by the environment or circumstances. This is because it is the state of their mind they are in. "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he," says the famous quote. This is a strong resistant force which is developed out of imagination and ties up with the lack of self-confidence and self-esteem. Giving in to intimidation hinders any progress. The irony of this is that most people's minds resist moving away from the undesirable, intimidating activity since it is considered as the reality. This is important to ponder about. Because when you consider something which is not true as a reality, then where are you going? It is difficult to think otherwise. The antidote to this is impressing your mind with strong messages like "be strong and of good courage." You can find out how many times this was told Joshua. Repetition is the mother of learning. If you repeat what you want as many times as needed, the subconscious mind will affirm this and let go what you do not want. Children are good at this. I believe this is why Jesus said that we should be like children. We hold on to those things which we should let go. But children change. Now, I'd like to give more emphasis on the positive aspect of the force of the mind, which is the driving force. The dominant side, which is very vital in every human life. This is the real and true experience. First of all, I give the illustration of the two brave young men remembered in history as Joshua and Caleb, whose imagination was positive and dominant. The threshold was a strong positive mind disposition. In chapter 13, verse 30b, we read, "Let us go at once and take possession, for we are well able to overcome it." That's their thinking. Only do not rebel against the Lord, nor fear the people of the land, for they are our bread. Think of it. They are our bread. We shall eat them. Their protection has departed from them, and the Lord is with us. Do not fear them. The driving dominant forces won the day because the focus was leaning on the inherent presence of the power of God, where these driving dominant forces reside. Secondly, I would like to draw out some treasures from the wider reading from the text mentioned earlier, that is the second epistle to Timothy chapter 1 verse 6 to 7. It says, "Therefore I remind you to stir up the gift of God, which is new. For God has not given us the spirit of fear or timidity, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." I would like to emphasize the verse, "Stir up the gift of God which is in you." And I believe it's not necessarily that because Paul laid hands on Timothy, that's why he got it. It is there, inherent in the presence of God. This is the threshold of my talk, this particular talk. Develop a positive mind disposition, which is a composition of your God-given natural inherent qualities of your mind. Think this all the time. The gifts or talents are made alive by the use of inherent forces that are there in everybody, waiting to be awakened. This is a positive, willful action on the side of every person. I'd like to talk about these inherent forces within. There are many of them. But to start with, I have picked the three mentioned in the passage I have just read. For God has given us the spirit of power and of love and of a sound mind. The first force is power. There are many ways we talk of power. We talk of political power, financial power, mental power, ecclesiastical power, spiritual power, and many others. I would like to highlight spiritual power because it underlies all these others, which when treated broadly means the dynamic power in every person who acknowledges God in one way or another. It only becomes effective when it is acknowledged and used for the common good. It influences, it makes one who inwardly realizes its potential existent to exert action that is needed to achieve the divine purpose with courage. I can do all things through him who gives me strength, says Paul in Philippians 4:13. Mark the word can. Here it means power, dynamism. It derives its force from wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of its potential and source. It is the driving force of the gifts, talents, and skills. Other powers are not permanent and may fail, but spiritual power remains because it is eternal. It does not die, but can only be made dormant in a person's life. This is why positive action on the side of every person is absolutely necessary. The second force is love. Whereas there are many ways love is talked about, especially the role of love, which I shall talk about in the next video, here I would like to bring the inherent force of love against situations that are potential for creating timidity and the related weaknesses. Love is strong, powerful in action. When it comes to accomplish the force of a talent or skill, it is that deep emotional pressure to achieve the desired effect. It builds confidence in your inner being. It is passion that cannot be put down by the intimidating forces. In actual fact, when you love what you are doing or someone, you do not give attention to the obstacles or challenges that come on the way. You embrace them instead. People will marvel at the way you have succeeded. Lastly, sound mind. Sound mind is also referred to as self-control or self-discipline. It is a state of mind whereby you harness the forces of your focus towards the direction you want to take. The state of a sound mind is that graceful, steady, and forceful purpose. You enjoy what you are doing, however difficult and challenging it is. Through the sound mind, you are able to capture otherwise hidden ideas. I have used this principle in producing this work. At the beginning, I taught myself how to use computer, and today I know a lot about it. When I wanted to know about the internet, a friend told me, "You just Google." And I did it. I built my website, and now I'm on the YouTube. I've always used the thinking, if others have done it, why not me? When I get stuck, I tell myself there must be a way, even though I do not see it now. With a bit of relaxation and listening to the voice from within, I just get the idea to try the other alternative, waiting. And it works. If it works for me, it can work for you. Why not? The truth or fact of the matter is that great blessings are ever there. I have kept a 2008 calendar made by Dayspring, which has this message: the blessings of the Lord surround us. We must open our eyes and hearts to see them. This will happen when we appreciate the truth of the message and affirm as a reality and work to achieve it. I will close by a quotation I came across in my reading but did not record the other. In all difficulties, advance and will, for within you is a power, a living force, which, when the more you trust and learn to use, will annihilate the opposition of matter. Now I believe you have learned many things which you shall need to ponder for further activity. However, this is not the end. Nature, or more importantly, God works in a certain harmonious order and set divine laws or principles that produce what is desired when followed and used properly. This is what I shall talk about in the next video talk, which is posted next week. Your contact is important for developing a forum on the theme. I would like you, therefore, if you please, to click your like or make a comment and subscribe below. Please also share this with your friends. I would like to reach as many friends in the world as possible. Now, I look forward to your viewing next week. Even though I shall not be seeing you, I know you shall be there. Welcome, and God bless you.